Why do I do it?
I imagine I'm quite unusual.
Growing up, I was a vegetarian.
I've not really come to it from being like good at gardening, having green fingers or anything like that.
Kind of ideal when I was at university of like getting some land and trying to be self-sufficient.
I've really come at it from a sort of environmental or political angle.
Food was really important in our house. It was very much a thing that united the family.
My grandparents had a garden and I grew up in the city, and I felt that it was tragic that I didn't know how to grow my own food.
My mum would cook just about every meal from scratch, and we would all sit down and eat together, and that was a really important part of my childhood.
I sort of really started to see like the potential for change, the seeds for change, as coming from changing the agricultural system.
I realised that I could make a career out of doing it rather than just having this self-sustainability idea.
I feel like I want to do something meaningful with my life, and I feel like growing food is the most meaningful you can really get.
Bristol was once fed by peri-urban horticulture projects, like suburban market gardens basically. Since '85, the amount of land given to this kind of agricultural production, suburban horticulture, has declined by almost 30%.
In this country, it's really difficult for farmers, especially kind of new entrants to farming, to get access to land. A lot of the land is owned by very few people. Land is expensive, and it's really difficult to get secure tenure on land, so often leases for just a few years.
And there are pockets around of land that, you know, are owned by people who actually are really happy to lease that land or to give that land or whatever to people, but it's finding those people.
So Bristol Food Producers is running a scheme of land matching where it tries to get people who want to have access to land to apply through Bristol Food Producers, and then it tries to match people with available land. Nobody wants huge amounts of land at the moment. There seems to be lots of small individual growers who all want small individual plots of land to be able to grow on, to be able to sustain a small business in some way.
A nice thing about the kind of setup we've got here is we've got ourselves, Edward Futures, we've got Simshill, we've got Feed Bristol, we've got a guy called Chris doing herbs, we've got a guy called Patrick doing mushrooms. We've got various projects operating out of one space.
Access to land is all about helping people to get onto pieces of land, either as established producers growing their business or for new entrants.
That's the difference quite often between somebody beginning a business and actually being a success and going, I can't do this because I can't find the land. It really is that simple. It gives people the ability to begin their businesses. Bristol Food Producers offers masterclasses around lots of things, from growing mushrooms to social media to all sorts of stuff. And what we've learnt is that actually people really like to learn those skills.
Bristol Food Producers funded me a place on the Fresh Start course. It was all about kind of the business element of starting up a horticultural project, all the accounting and the marketing and the business plan, stuff that kind of doesn't necessarily come naturally.
With the Grow Leader placements and the Grow Leader course, we're trying to give skills back out to people to develop their own projects.
I think it really gives the opportunity for people to learn about things that might complement what they're already doing, so they can diversify in the businesses that they're running, they can expand on the skills that they already have and do things that they're already doing but in a more effective way.
We were running courses and lessons on the site, but what we needed to do was turn it into a formal course so that we could open it up to the public. Bristol Food Producers supported us by giving us the funding to write it as a formal course, which we could then offer out to the public.
Me and my colleague put together a little one-day course on just teaching the basics of how to do some pretty simple outdoor cultivation stuff that doesn't involve loads of lab work.
People have gone on to be assistant ecologists. One of our grow leaders is now working with St Werburgh City Farm as one of their growers. Several people have gone on to set up businesses as well.
It would have been more difficult for me to do it without Bristol Food Producers. I can't remember the exact course fee, but it definitely would have put me off doing it. Growing salad isn't exactly the most bountiful of all careers. Yeah, it kind of made it possible.
We're all trying to do the same or similar things, and all coming up against the same problems, so it's good to try and talk those problems out and get experience and knowledge from other people who are ahead of you in that thinking and how they've managed to do it as well.
What I've seen from it is people being inspired to take more action on the ground and giving them the confidence to take the next step. So places like Purple Patch, Patrick with his mushrooms, being part of that bigger community and knowing that support network is there, I think has given people that confidence to take that next step forward.
There's lots of different routes to market for people. People can operate a direct-to-customer model. There's restaurants, there's retailers, there's distributors who are already set up and running. So there's a whole lot of different options for producers, and it's sometimes difficult for them to tell which is the best one for them.
We sell directly to some chefs and restaurants, and we also sell into whole food shops and greengrocers. But one of our most exciting ways of selling is through food assembly.
This is a kind of a mixture between a farmer's market and an online market. We have a website and people order their food online beforehand. People can go through and they can select any of the food that we have available.
It's like a prepaid farmer's market, but it's a way of bringing people closer to the producers.
Furthest afield is about 32 miles. A lot of them live within a mile radius of where we are right now.
It's a really modern way of shopping and delivering to customers, but actually recreates the old markets and social interactions of the old days.
Well, we have to be quite explicit about what we want and what kind of thing we're after. And the more clarity we explain to the suppliers, the more they can react and come back to us with a product that we really want. It sells more and they're happy because we're buying more from them. And everybody loves that feedback.
It's a really good thing that we can do is to help people connect up to what is already there, what are the possible options. So we can provide that information and save people having to start from scratch every time a new producer comes along.
You know, it really resonates with our, you know, our ethos and what we try and achieve here. So we take pleasure in our day's work here and enjoy turning out plate food and watching people enjoy it, knowing that we know Patrick that's growing the mushroom that's on that plate.
To use the products in the shop and to sell them, but also to celebrate the Bristol food movement, which is amazing.
Having someone that is making it their mission to connect people like throughout the community, throughout demographics with where their food's growing and getting meeting quality local produce is amazing. So good.
What I like about Bristol Food Producers is, first of all, it's a kind of like a social and solidarity thing. You know, just the idea of having an organisation in Bristol, as in a city, for people interested in food, interested in producing food, interested in processing food, is quite a novel and, you know, socially quite an interesting thing to do. But more practically, you know, they run interesting courses, they put on social events.
It's really helped pull the network together through either the social functions, but just being able to people to gather around courses and have that conversation, where we're now, it feels like more linked up between a whole range of scales of different producers.
I think it can be really isolating being a farmer or a producer. I mean, you're often working long hours, especially in the summer, and I think it's really useful to be part of something bigger, to be able to connect with people who are in a similar situation to you, but also be part of something that can provide a voice to what you're doing.
In the winter we were crowdfunding for a tractor and they were helping us spread the word, and we went to some of the events. But also just meeting other growers in the area has helped me a lot because I'm quite new to Bristol.
It's essential for us to be part of the network because we learn lessons from other food producers and they can learn lessons from us. We've been here 8 years, we've learned lessons and we've still got a lot more lessons to learn.
I think building a community of growers together, giving us more say as a collective rather than just trying to all do it individually and end up creating competing markets against each other.
I really feel like I'm part of a movement, part of the food movement, especially in Bristol, as we're doing some really kind of interesting and disruptive and new things and developing new ways of creating kind of more sustainable and healthy future.
It needs somebody to be able to champion the cause, if you like, for people that don't have a voice. And I think collectively we can have a much stronger voice than we do on our own.
There is a real food movement in this city. There are lots of people growing lots of stuff very quietly in little corners, and that we actually start to really look for those people and search them out and start buying from them.